Madam, can we start?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Sharda Education Society's Anand Vishwa Gurukul College of Law, Vidhilikit NetBet. During this lockdown period, we are inviting various dignitaries from the field of law in order to guide and enlighten our students with different kinds of topics which are related to law. Today we have with us Advocate Priyanka Rane Patil, Madam, on behalf of Sharda Education Society, Anand Vishwa Gurukul College of Law. I welcome you, Madam, for today's session. A very different session altogether today. It's about provision relating to prevention of sexual harassment at Workplace Act 2013. So we are all eager to hear from you regarding the provisions relating to this act. So once again, Madam, I welcome you and I request Amruta Madam to kindly introduce Advocate Priyanka Rane Patel Madam. Amruta Madam, there is lots of disturbance, I think, on your side.
On my side, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Amruta Madam.
Shall I continue, sir?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Noise is still coming on, sir?
No, it's a bit better now, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Sir, we'll start then. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Pradhan, sir. Hello and good morning, everybody. I welcome Advocate Priyanka Patil, Madam, along with Advocate Sudatta Patil, sir. And it's a privilege to introduce our guest speaker today, Advocate Priyanka Rane Patil, Madam. Madam was born and brought up in Kolhapur. Ma'am has completed her degree in law from one of the reputed colleges in Pune, that is ILS Law College, in the year 2000. Ma'am has also completed her master's from Pune University in the year 2002. Ma'am also holds a diploma in medical jurisprudence. Madam is practicing at High Court Mumbai and Family Court Mumbai. Madam is presently appointed by the Government of Maharashtra as a bench of magistrates on Child Welfare Committee, Mumbai. Madam is also a member of Mahesh Bhupati Tennis Academy Sexual Harassment Committee and is a director of ICLER, which conducts various legal programs. Madam was invited by United Nations, New York, to speak on sustainable development. In the year 2015, Madam was facilitated at the hands of Chief Justice of Supreme Court of Bangladesh for her exemplary work in the field of law. Ma'am was also facilitated as a woman of substance on the International Women's Day in the year 2016. Madam has started practice as a criminal trial court lawyer with one of the renowned legal face of the Kolhapur, Advocate P.K. Chaugule sir. Madam is instrumental in leading the Maratha Kranti Morcha and is also invited by many TV channels to speak on the women empowerment and legal provision. Ma'am is a visiting faculty at Ruparel New Law College and Apte College. And ma'am also was a visiting faculty at Mumbai University and Shivaji University, also at Bharati Vidyapit Kolhapur. Madam is also teaching law to Cambridge University, Sanjay Godawat College. Ma'am was awarded Best Speaker at school level and has won many elocution and debate competitions. Madam is instrumental in opening first lawyers training center in India at Sangli in the name of her grandfather-in-law, Advocate Vasanta Rao Patil Lawyers Training Center, which is aimed at helping young lawyers and law students, especially from taluka and districts, in their career journey. Now, this is a vast portfolio of Madam. I once again welcome Advocate Priyanka Rani Patil ma'am and request ma'am to please guide and enlighten our students. Thanks.
Thank you, Amruta. Thank you for a lovely introduction. I would also like to thank Advocate Suyash Pradhanji, who is the principal of Anand Vishwa Gurukul College. Also Dr. Pradeep Dhaval, who is the secretary of Sharda Education Society. Thank you, Amruta, for being so flexible on the dates, because I was a little skeptical because of my personal webinar coming on this platform. But then you were so flexible with the dates and the time, so big thank you for that.
Welcome.
So today we'll be speaking about the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act of 2013. Now, when we speak about this act, we speak about the three concepts on which this Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act rests on. That is the prevention, the prohibition, and the redressal. Now, I don't want to sound as a feminist, but then let me put it this way, that half of the global population overall consists of women. And women have been placed at a disadvantageous position because of the gender bias, at the gender difference, I would say, the gender difference and the bias overall. And in the male-dominated society, they have been exploited. They have been exploited physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. Now, this exploitation was going on for a really long time. The concept of equality was unknown to women folk, absolutely unknown to women folk, unless and until the Constitution of India came into picture. So when the preamble of the Constitution, which stated equality, which talked about justice in the social, economical, and political format, and it also expressed the liberty of thought and expression. Now, when you speak about sexual harassment, it is indeed a violation of the fundamental rights which has been guaranteed by Article 14 and 15 of the Constitution of India, which speaks about equality of law and equal protection of law. It is also a violation of Article 21 of the Constitution, which speaks about the right to live with dignity and to carry out any profession that a woman wants. The protection against sexual harassment and the right to work with dignity have been recognized as universally accepted human rights. Now, when we speak about the sexual harassment, there is, I would say, there is still a taboo on it. People are not coming in the forefront, especially the female folk are not coming in the forefront to talk about it. Maybe the things that are associated with the sexual harassment, the stigmatization. We are concerned about the society in general. We are concerned about the social status, and therefore people, that is the women folk, don't come in forward because of the loss of the job opportunity or the promotions that may be there in that are lined up. So they are not very vocal about it. They don't come in the forefront. The awareness of the sexual harassment is not there, I would say, from whatever cases that I deal with, or when I was appointed with the Mahesh Bhupati Tennis Academy Sexual Harassment Committee also. The awareness is absolutely not there. So there needs to be more awareness on this aspect as to what is sexual harassment. Now, when we speak about the sexual harassment, I'll be sharing a screen space also with you, with all the participants. So the meaning and the content of the fundamental rights guaranteed in the Constitution are of sufficient amplitude to encompass all facets of gender equality. The Constitution speaks about this equality. Now, when you want to understand the definition of sexual harassment, you have to understand the words the way it has been defined under the Act. When you speak about sexual harassment, it speaks about the unwelcome act or the behavior. Now, this term is very, very important. That is the unwelcome act or the behavior, which includes the physical contact and the advances, a demand or request for sexual favors, making sexually colored remarks. I'll give you an example of that. Suppose a female employee is working in an office and the boss says that the AC is very chilled. So the female employee agrees to that concept and says, yes, boss, the AC is chilled. And then he proposes, why don't you come closer to me? You'll feel hot. This is a sexually colored remark. Showing pornography is also covered under the term of sexual harassment. The further definition goes at any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal act of sexual nature. Now, here the term unwelcome is very, very important. When the content or when the advances are of unwelcome nature, the women can very well term those advances or those gestures and term it as sexual harassment. Now, when you speak about the aggrieved women, now, who is an aggrieved woman? Now, when we speak about the concept of aggrievement, because you have to understand when you speak about the Sexual Harassment Act, you have to understand the definition, you have to understand the terminologies that are defined under the Act. So it may be a working woman who is visiting any working place. The woman may be of any age, whether she is employed or not. It covers a student also who is subjected to any act of sexual harassment. It may be a domestic worker. It may be a regular, temporary, or ad hoc on daily wages worker who is working for remuneration or voluntary basis, who is employed through an agent or directly, or who is a contract worker. In relation to a dwelling place or house, the age has not been defined. A woman of any age who is employed in such a dwelling place would be covered under the definition of aggrieved women. Now, I will give you 2 examples wherein it will make you more clear about the act of sexual harassment. Coming to the first example. Now, here Jayanti is working in a garment factory and Pyarelal, her employer, always on the pretext of telling her something, touches her. Probably by adjusting her dupatta while she's sewing at the machine. Now, this act of the employer is not liked by Jayanti. It is an unwelcome act. And Jayanti's colleagues ridicule her. They mock her for the special treatment or gossip about it in the premises, in the organization. Now, here the question would be how an hostile environment is created here. The physical touching by Pyarelal is an unwelcome and sexual harassment term. The gossip that happens in the premises is creating a hostile environment for Jayanti, which she is not liking it. This would be a classic example where a female is employed somewhere and a hostile environment is created for her. There are sexual advances that are made to her, which are unwelcome sexual advances. I'll share with you another example. Now here, Renuka is a domestic worker. She takes care of all the activities in the house. The lady of the house is out almost daily because she's a working woman and she leaves early. The only male member, that is the husband of the lady of the house, is often leering at her and moving around just in a towel wrapped around his waist. On one occasion, he pinched her bottom. Now, when she said she'll complain, he said that he will accuse her of stealing and ensure that she loses her job. Now, here in this example, the male, by asking her to keep quiet, commits what we call as quid pro quo. That is something for something, as a form of sexual harassment. That is, if you don't keep mum, I will ensure that you lose your job and I will make allegations against you. His behavior, that is the male member's behavior, is unwelcome, sexual, and has a negative impact on Renuka. It has disturbed her physically as well as mentally. Now, these two are the classic examples of sexual harassment. Now, when we speak about workplace, we have to understand, because this workplace definition has very wide meaning and everything is covered under it. Now, when we speak about workplace, it includes any department, organization, undertaking, establishment, enterprise, office, which is run by the government or the corporation or the cooperative society. Any private sector organization or private venture or a cooperative society, be it an educational institution, the entertainment sector, industrial, health services, the financial activities, hospital, nursing homes, any sports institute, sports complex, or any place that is visited by the employee arising during the course of the employment. And this also includes a dwelling place or a house. Now, when we speak about this, we are speaking about the organized sector. Now, when we speak about the unorganized sector, it includes a workplace which is involved in the production or the sale of goods or providing the service of any kind whatsoever, which has workers which are less in number than number 10. Now, when we speak about this organized and this unorganized sector, I am reminded of a workshop that was conducted by the Mahesh Bhupathi Tennis Academy, wherein the All India coaches had come over, and there was a seminar which I had conducted, where I was invited, and I spoke exclusively about the sexual harassment. Now, when I was speaking at the Mahesh Bhupathi Tennis Academy, we had coaches from all over India, and the seminar was in Delhi. Now, these coaches, after my lecture, after my explanation of the Sexual Harassment Women at Workplace Act, many of the coaches came to me and they told me that we were absolutely unaware that this is what is called as sexual harassment. Because many a times it happens that during the coaching or the teaching, there are friendly relations that are developed between the coaches and their students. Sometimes there are friendly exchange of words. There are messages that are exchanged. There are sometimes advances that are done by the female students, and the coaches have to be very, very vigilant about it. They have to be aware about it, because later on, if there is a case of sexual harassment that is filed, that this was the message which was sent to be by my coach, maybe he's doing it in a friendly way. He will not understand the consequences of it. But many a times things go wrong. There is jealousy that happens, and out of the jealousy, there may be false allegations that may be made against the coaches. So I made them aware that what is the term sexual harassment, and they need to maintain their distance. Now, I'll give you an example wherein one of the coaches came to me and they told me that, "Madam, this is this ex-female student of mine who has been sending me messages. He was a good-looking coach. She's been sending me messages. And I have been reverting because she is my student. So I made him understand that it is very, very important to draw a line of decency, wherein you revert to the messages as a coach itself, and you should never cross the line. Because tomorrow, if there are any allegations, God forbid, if there are any allegations that are made, there should be evidence on your side also that I was just reverting to the messages and there were never any sexual advances that were made, because sending of text sexual messages is also covered under the act or defined under the term called as sexual harassment. So making them aware is very, very important. And when I went for this lecture that was arranged, I found out that people are not aware about the sexual harassment absolutely. So there needs to be more awareness about this concept. And when we speak about the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act, there needs to be an internal complaint committee where there are workers, where there are 10 or more workers which are employed. Now, I have hardly seen any institutions or organizations or any establishments which are following up that criteria, that there is an internal complaint committee which needs to be established. Now, when this internal complaint committee is established, where there are 10 or more workers, the constitution of the committee is such that there needs to be one chairperson who is the senior most female employee of that particular organization. She is the chairperson of that particular committee. Then there are 2 members who are from the employees itself, who are committed to the cause of women or who are working towards women welfare or having legal knowledge. One is an external member. So that external member can be an advocate who has expertise in particular law field, or working in the social welfare sector, or working for women from an NGO. Now, the constitution of the committee says that half of the number of the internal complaint committee should be women. Now, when there is no internal complaint committee that is established, every district should have a local complaint committee. Now, this local complaint committee is established at every district level, and the district officer is heading that local complaint committee. So when there is no internal complaint committee, which is established at any organization, and if a woman is subjected to sexual harassment, she needs to go to the local complaint committee, which is established at every district level. Now, the district officer being the chairperson, there also you have 2 female members who are working and committed to the cause of women welfare. One nodal officer who is working under the district officer, who is representing that taluka. You have another member who is an external member of that organization, that whenever you make a complaint to the local complaint committee, this constitution of the local complaint committee takes the cognizance of that particular complaint. Now, when you make a complaint, it is very, very important for you to understand the complaint content. Now, the content of the complaint, as we can see in the slide, the description of the incident is very, very important. The complaint has to be in writing, be it to the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee. The date has to be specified. On what occasion, on what day of that particular week or month you were sexually harassed. The timing has to be mentioned. The respondent's name has to be mentioned. And the parties who are involved in that particular incident, those have to be mentioned very clearly. Now, if there are series of incidents of sexual harassment, all incidents need to be mentioned very, very specifically. If there are witnesses that are there who have witnessed that form of sexual harassment, those witnesses' presence should also be mentioned in the complaint. We have to understand that the drafting of the complaint is very, very important here, because your complaint has to be an elaborative one wherein you specify each and everything. Now, if there are series of incidents of sexual harassment that have happened, then from the last incident of sexual harassment that has happened, within 3 months, the complaint needs to be filed to the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee. Now, one may ask that what happens if the woman is not in a position to file a complaint within a period of 3 months? Then does she lose a right? Does she lose a right of filing a complaint? The answer is in the negative. For the reasons to be recorded in writing by the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee, she can very well file the complaint even after the period of 3 months after the last incident of sexual harassment. But the reasons have to be recorded. Now, once she files a complaint before the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee, and suppose she is, or because of the trauma, because it is a very traumatic incident for this woman or this girl, and if she is not in a position to file a complaint because of the physical incapacity or the mental incapacity, then the act says that any person from her behalf, on her behalf, can also file the complaint. So the act doesn't say that the woman has to go. Primarily, yes, the woman has to go and file a complaint. But if she is not in a position to file a complaint because of the reasons mentioned, that is the physical incapacity or the mental incapacity, any person on her behalf can file a complaint. Even the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee has to assist her in whatever aspect in filing the complaint. Many a times they are not aware about the legal position, or when the incident has happened, they are in such a shock that it happens they are not able to recollect. So you, as a member of the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee, it is your responsibility to help the women in filing the complaint. And as a woman, or if you belong to any organization, any sector or any establishment, you can ask the local complaint committee or the internal complaint committee to provide the assistance in filing a complaint. It is your right. Now, after this complaint in writing has been filed with all the specifications which I have shared in my slide, on the request of the women, now please understand this, if the woman makes a request that she wants to reconcile the matter, that is end the matter, then she can very well do so before the internal complaint committee. So on her request, she can make a request to the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee that I don't want to go on with this matter and I want to end this matter. If she makes a request and if there is reconciliation that happens between the parties, that reconciliation has to be recorded by the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee. That recording is very, very important. That if there is a settlement that has happened. Now, the copies of these settlement have to be provided to the employer and also to the district officer if the complaint is made to the local complaint committee. So therein the woman on her request makes a compromise and she says that I don't want to go with the case because the harassment has stopped and he has, the person who is harassing her has promised her that he won't do such acts in future, and therefore she has decided to end the matter there itself. So if a compromise is being arrived at, that compromise needs to be recorded. And that settlement, that copies needs to be provided to the employer, as I said, and also to the district officer when it's a local complaint committee. Now I will tell you a case wherein a woman who was employed in a reputed Pune firm had approached me. Now, when she approached me, she told me that I asked, what is the case? So she told me. Now, I'll not take the name of the firm. Now, this female, she told me that I have been receiving sexual advances text from my bosses, wherein they ask me that let's go for a coffee, you're looking beautiful. And out of decency, he being my boss, I have reverted to those messages, but in a decent way. Thank you, sir. Coffee today, it's not possible. I have some other work. Now, these advances of coffee advances, or you looking beautiful, you looking gorgeous, and let's go out on a coffee date, or let's go out for a drive. Sometimes the females don't respond sharply because they fear their employment, losing out on their job opportunity. Now, when these advances were not reverted back by her, the boss tried for a few months, and those were not reverted by her. What he did was that he burdened her with work. So her job timings were 9 to 5, but eventually she was working till 9, and continuous work was given to her that you have to complete this. He was being rude to her. The text messages had stopped. Mind you, the text messages had stopped, but she was overburdened with work. And they had sent her a notice that since you are not doing your work properly, we are going to terminate your service. And 1 month period was given. Now, at this stage, she came to me. And when I asked her, now see, here you have to be a very good listener. As a lawyer, when a client comes to you, you have to listen to him. You don't have to show your knowledge first. Oh, I know this much, and I will show what are the sections and what are the provisions. That you can do later on. But first, you have to be a very good listener, because they don't understand the legal language. They don't understand the legal provisions. And sometimes in the flow of explanation, they tell you a lot of things which will be useful for you when you draft your complaint, or when you send your notice, or when you advise that particular client to file a case. So it is very, very important to listen to your client. So when she was narrating me this incident, she also told me that her female colleague was harassed in similar fashion, and she left the job without taking the 6 months salary. The office policy was that you should pay the salary, but then she was sexually harassed in such a way wherein she said, I don't want the job. My mental peace is very important to me. And she had left the job. Now, she probably might have thought of the other consequences which she would have to face if she files a complaint or if she takes it against the employer. But this female who came to me was a strong-willed person and was not aware of the legal provisions or the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. I made her aware of all the provisions of sexual harassment because she had all the evidence, the text messages or the mails that had come from the boss. We replied, the notice that she had received that you will be terminated within a period of 1 month, and her 3 or 4 months salary was not given. So we replied her as a lawyer, but then I told her the legal provisions and I drafted the notice reply in such a way wherein, not using the term sexual harassment, the entire content of the reply was that the boss has been sexually harassing me. The result was that they not only gave her the entire salary, but they made their stand clear that the overburdening of work was because of XYZ factors. So it is very, very important for us to understand the term sexual harassment, and as female employees, if you have a female employee or a female friend or a colleague who is being sexually harassed, it is very, very important for you to stand against it. Many of them don't take a stand, but it is very, very important to take a stand. Here it reminds me of a quote wherein it goes, I quote, that teach your daughters to worry less about fitting into glass slippers and teach them more about shattering glass ceilings. See, it's very, very important. It's not only about the uneducated class. The educated class owning a complaint or going and filing case for sexual harassment. Many times we are not aware that this is sexual harassment. So it is very, very important to understand what is sexual harassment, what your rights are, understand the law, take the legal help of a lawyer, go to a lawyer and understand the provisions of law. Now, when we spoke about the complaint, the way it is to be made. Now, when this complaint is made, there is an inquiry that happens into the complaint. It will not be the case that a complaint is made and immediately the result is given out. So when this complaint is made to the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee at the district level, inquiry happens into the complaint. Now, when inquiry is done into that case, obviously there has to be evidence, and there are two sides of a coin. A female has made a complaint does not imply that sexual harassment has happened. It may be for reasons that she has done it for her own selfish reasons because she wants to get rid of something, and that is why she's making certain allegations. So the principle of natural justice will come here, wherein both sides should be heard. So when the complaint is made by the female of sexual harassment, an inquiry starts by the internal complaint committee. Now, this internal complaint committee has the powers of the Civil Procedure Code that are given under the Act. That is summoning and attendance of the witness, the production of any documents, and any matter related thereto. So if there are any witnesses that are important or relevant for that particular case, for the allegations of sexual harassment or against the allegations of sexual harassment, the local complaint committee will see that the witnesses attend the summons and they give the evidence to that effect. Now, here the witnesses necessarily would be the persons who are working in that workplace. If there are any documents, as I said in my earlier case, wherein there were text messages that were advanced or there were mails that were advanced, you need to tell them that keep this evidence on record. It is very, very important because this is going to help you in your case, in your claim. You merely making an allegation of sexual harassment will not suffice. You having evidence to that effect will help you in reaching the committee, come to a conclusion that yes, sexual harassment has happened. Now, this applies for the applicant also and also for the respondent. The respondent also may produce witnesses on his behalf and the documents on his behalf, stating that she was never sexually harassed. It was merely the work that was levied upon her and she didn't wanted to do that work. That's why these allegations of sexual harassment are leveled against me. So inquiry goes into that and a period of 90 days is mentioned. That is the internal complaint committee should make an inquiry within a period of 90 days and submit a report. That is the internal complaint committee and the local complaint committee. Within a period of 10 days, they should submit a report to that effect as to what is the result of that inquiry. When the result of that inquiry is being done, in all this process is being done, it is the duty of the local complaint committee or the internal complaint committee to see that the witnesses attend whoever are mentioned in the complaint at any cost, if they are relevant for that particular case. Now, when the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee makes an inquiry and submits its report with its findings that yes, sexual harassment has happened or sexual harassment has not happened in a particular case, they submit their report to the employer or they submit their report to the district officer, that is the local complaint committee. Now, what is the action that is taken thereafter? Now, action for misconduct can be taken if the person has been sexually harassed. Now, whatever has been mentioned in the service rules of that particular establishment when they sign the agreement or when they are employed in that particular company, whatever the service rules are mentioned, that person is liable for that. So sexual harassment will be treated as a misconduct and he may be expelled from the company itself with a certificate and with mentioning that he has committed such kind of act. The local complaint committee or the ICC may also report it to the police station. And section 354 and 509 also may be invoked. Now, this is essentially treated as a misconduct, and compensation, the internal complaint committee also may allow compensation to the victim for the mental trauma that she has undergone through, for the physical loss that she has faced, or the mental loss, the mental harassment. And this loss has to be made good to the applicant from the salary of the respondent. Now, if the salary is not, if the respondent doesn't pay from the salary, it can be recovered as areas of land revenue, but this has to be reported to the district officer to be recovered as areas of land revenue. And the person may be expelled. Now, when this inquiry is going on, because this inquiry will take a period of 3 months or more than that, generally it has to be completed within a period of 3 months. Now, the aggrieved woman in this case, she would be transferred because it would be very difficult for her to work in that kind of hostile environment if it is a genuine case. Now, this woman may be transferred to a place which is the other establishment of that particular company. She may be transferred to that place, or the person who is allegedly have been said to have committed that kind of offense, he also may be transferred to any other establishment which the company has until the inquiry is done. And if the female is comfortable in staying in the same establishment, she is carried on with the establishment till the inquiry is done. Now, I will tell you one more example, one more case that had come to me. Now, there was this female who was employed in a bank, and the employer, that is her boss, her immediate boss, she was a young female. The boss was also young, a married person, but he was sending her messages that I really like you, and my marriage is not working well, and let's go out. And contents of sexual messages were also sent, wherein he used to send her messages which were not liked by her. Now, initially, she tried to ignore those kind of messages. But once you ignore the messages, once you don't send the reply, their confidence builds up. They send another text message stating that she's keeping silent, so she is liking it. The woman is in a position, because of the way she has been employed in that particular establishment or that particular bank, not to respond in a particular way. Now, here she was literally fed up with the messages, and it was going on for around 3 to 4 months. The advances through the sexual, through the messages were getting sexual. I'm not getting along with my wife. I need a person like you as my wife. And comments were made on her figure, that you have a very good figure, and explanatory to that effect. Now, she got really fed up. Now, there was no internal complaint committee that was established over there. So she had nothing. She had few political connections. So she went to a political party. Now, this political party, now you know the office bearers of the political party, how they are. अरे ऐसा हुआ है, असं झालेला आहे तुझ्या बरोबर, चल आपण त्याला जाऊन ठोकूयात. Okay, we'll get him, we'll make him straight, whatever it is. So she went to a political party who are very aggressive in their approach. I'll not name the political party also. And she said that this person is harassing me. He's been sending me text messages and I have never replied back to his text messages. I don't know what to do. I need your help. Now, these office bearers of the political party, they said that we'll teach him a lesson. So they go to the bank. Now they go to the bank and a mob of like 15, 20 of them from that political party, they go to the bank, they pull him out, they hold him by the collar, okay? They make him listen explicit words. They pull him by the collar, take him outside, beat him, thrash him. Now, all the shopkeepers that are there in the vicinity see this incident, that this local this local politician party has come and they have thrashed him, bashed him. Now, he is humiliated. The women is very happy. The political party persons are very happy. Oh, we have given justice to her. We have taken the law in our hands. We have given justice to her. And they come back. The next day, the boss, that is the employer, commits suicide. And he writes a suicide note, naming all these persons. Now, this is a classic example wherein you should never ever take recourse or take help of the political parties, but anytime if a woman is aggrieved with such kind of behavior or sexual harassment, the first thing that she needs to do is to file a complaint with the internal complaint committee. If there is no internal complaint committee, make a complaint to the local complaint committee, which is established at every district level. If you cannot do so, take the help of the Women and Child Department also, which is established, which is there in every state. You can go to the police station. You can tell the help of the police what the woman should have done in this case, because I cannot blame her because there was no internal complaint committee. She couldn't help but go herself and just mention that and take the help of this political party. The first and foremost thing that she should have done was to go to the police station and file a complaint against this person. See, now we don't know whether the allegations that she had leveled against this employer of hers, whether those were genuine or whether those were not genuine. Because there was no inquiry into that. He had just written a suicide note wherein he mentioned these names, that I've been humiliated because the people in the vicinity have seen it and my image is tarnished, because he came from a small town and he was employed over there. He came from a small town. My reputation is at stake. I have no face to show my family. My marriage is broken and everything. So he had written a proper suicide note. Now here, this is very important for us to understand as females, that when you are subjected to sexual harassment, it is very, very important for you to make a complaint to that effect to the appropriate authority. And the appropriate authority will take action in that aspect. Now, I would further like to say that the JMFC has the powers to take the cognizance of these kind of offenses. Now, the JMFC will take the cognizance of these kind of offenses that have happened when you speak about section 354 or 509. And it is a non-cognizable offense. So the JMFC has the powers to take the cognizance of the offense and register a complaint, make an inquiry, and the further process will happen. That reminds me of the famous sexual harassment case against the ex-Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi. Now, there was a sexual harassment, there were sexual harassment charges that were pressed against him by the female staff who was working with him. Now, she leveled those kind of charges against him in 2019, that she was his junior court assistant in October 2018. And he, being the senior most judge, he used all his influence and terminated because she didn't return or she didn't reply to his sexual advances that were made. So this is a classic example wherein the high-profile ex-Chief Justice of India was involved. Now, there was a special in-house inquiry that was done after the charges were leveled against the ex-Chief Justice, that is Ranjan Gogoi. And the special panel of judges came to the conclusion that those sexual harassment charges were false and those were baseless allegations that were made against him. Now, this was an in-house inquiry which went on for 4 days, and they came to the conclusion. Now, here it is very important for us to understand that merely making an allegation against a person will tarnish his image for all his life, because whenever comes up that pops us is the sexual harassment charges that are pressed against him. Now, whether the allegations were true or not, and what was the result of that inquiry wherein they came to the conclusion that all those allegations were false, is another matter of debate. But when you make allegations against a particular person, that blot remains on him. It can never be erased by anything. So Mr. Gogoi had struggled and had reached to that level of being the Chief Justice of India, coming from a Northeast province. And his struggle needs to be appreciated. And ultimately, the conclusion charges were baseless. But still a question remains that if the female staffer had made such was the truth in those kinds of allegations, why did she do so, and whether there were false and baseless allegations. It's me of the Me Too movement as well, wherein the Me Too movement started, and it started with allegations wherein the top-notch Hollywood producers and all were involved, and actresses making allegation against them after 15 years, 20 years. The Me Too movement took its tempo over here in India also, where there were allegations filed against some senior actors also. Nana Patekar to name. Tanushree Datta had named him that she had been sexually harassed, and the Me Too movement. Now, there are two sides to it. One thing is that when you are faced with this kind of sexual harassment, it is very, very important for you to make a complaint to that effect immediately. If you have been keeping quiet for a period of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and then you speak about it, it raises a question mark on your intention, on the content of your complaint. Why have you been keeping mum for all these 15 years or 20 years? Is it really a genuine complaint, or is it a malicious complaint? So it raises a doubt. Now, some of the arguments that are advanced are that sometimes you are not in a position to make a complaint immediately because you are a junior, maybe at your workplace, or when you're speaking about the film industry, you are a junior, you need to establish, you have to make a place for yourself. And that is why it is not relevant whether you make the complaint that time or later on, but it is very much relevant, I'm telling you, my friends. It is very much relevant because the weightage is there on the complaint that whatever the allegations are made in the complaint might be true. If that is the case, you keeping mum for a period, for a longer period of 10 years and 15 years, and then speaking about it will cast a doubt on your whole intention. So this Me Too movement is in relation, since it was in relation to this, I spoke about that also, that it is very, very important for you to tell the harasser to stop these kind of messages, to stop these kind of advances, to stop those kind of things that are there. It is very, very important for females to talk to their colleagues if such kind of sexual harassment is meted out to you at your workplace. Now, this is the evidence that you are creating. You talking to your friends. So tomorrow, even if you file a case, even there are no text messages that are there, you may always bring in the witness stating that 3 months back, I had told my colleague that I was send certain kind of advances, or there may be no direct advances, there may be no direct text messages, but there may be non-verbal conduct of sexual nature, which is also covered under the Sexual Harassment Act. And you can bring in this evidence before the internal complaint committee or the local complaint committee. So it is very, very important for you. If there is no internal complaint committee that is established, talk to your HR department, talk to the seniors, but don't give up. When you speak about don't give up, I am reminded of one more case and then I will end. The Rupan Dev Bajaj case. When we speak about the Rupan Dev Bajaj case, she being an IS officer, we feel that at bureaucracy level, nothing happens. Sexual harassment doesn't happen. But we are in the wrong mindset, my friends. Sexual harassment happens at any place, be it at house, be it at workplace, or be it anywhere. So this IS officer, when she was patted at her posterior, many of them told her it's just a nominal thing. You were just patted on your posterior. Why are you filing a complaint? But she had the guts to take on the super cop, Mr. Gill. And this was the first case of sexual harassment that was filed against him. Now, initially, the police stations were not ready to register her complaint because he being the super cop, they were under the impression, oh, let's not get into that mess. But this lady had the guts to take the cop and book a case for sexual harassment. It was somewhere in the 90s, 95, I guess. And she booked him for that. She took him to the Supreme Court itself, wherein the Supreme Court stated the trial court didn't take, acquitted him of the charges, but the Supreme Court took cognizance of it and stated that yes, patting on your posterior, it may be trivial to you, but it is a form of sexual harassment, and they granted her compensation of 2 lakhs. So she didn't think of the fact, oh my God, this is like 10 years, 15 years. She stood for her right. She stood for what was wrong. Some, as I said, many of them suggested her that this is a very nominal thing. These things happen. Why are you complaining? She didn't take it lying down. So it is very, very important, especially for the women folk and also for the male folks, to support your colleagues, to support your female colleagues, and make them understand that this is not the way the sexual harassment is to be taken. Because if you allow them at this preliminary stage, they will gain confidence and something worse will happen in the near future. So it is very important for you to say no. Mind you, girls, that a safe workplace is every woman's right. And it is very, very important, a safe workplace. And it is your right. And it is in your hands how you demand this right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka, ma'am. Yes, thank you so much, madam. I must say, madam, this practical domain of this prevention of sexual harassment of a woman at workplace act 2013, very beautifully you have explained, rather with wonderful examples and appealing cases. Ma'am, with your permission, can we take few questions? I have listed few questions. So can I take these questions one by one, madam?
Yes, Amrita.
Okay. So, madam, my first question is, what should an employer do to see that there are minimum cases of sexual harassment in his organization or establishment? Madam.
See, it is very, very important for an employer to have a workplace which is free of any sexual harassment cases. So for that, the internal complaint committee establishment is very, very important for an employer where there are 10 or more employees. Then having lectures on sexual harassment is very, very important, because my experience shows that people are not even aware what is sexual harassment. And when I tell them, when I hold these kind of workshops or when I take these kind of seminars, they are taken aback and they say, oh, this is sexual harassment. We didn't knew this. So it is very, very important to display for the employer also at a conspicuous place that what is sexual harassment, hold regular webinars for that. We build a atmosphere of that kind wherein the women working at your workplace feel safe. And if there is anything, they feel they have the confidence to come to you and report to you any case of sexual harassment that has happened. Also, confidentiality is very, very important. He needs to build up that confidence in his employees that whatever complaint you make against whoever it may be, the confidentiality would be maintained. And it's in the hands of the employer. If the employer sees that such kind of atmosphere is there in his establishment, there would be hardly any cases of sexual harassment.
Yes, madam. Can I take another second question, madam?
Yes.
So the question is, if a female is a recipient of sexual harassment, should she first report it to the internal complaint committee of her office or file a case in a police station? Madam.
See, the female employee can take recourse to both. That is, if there is an internal complaint committee which has been established, she can very well file the case before or file a complaint, that is the written complaint with the specifications before the internal complaint committee. Simultaneously, she can also report it to the police station that such and such act has been, such and such act has happened. And that's why I am complaining against this person, and an FIR may be lodged by her. Also, the internal complaint committee may forward that complaint which is made by the women to the police station. So duty is cast on the internal complaint committee also, that if they feel it fit, they can forward the complaint to the police station.
Yes, madam. Madam, my next question is from another side, you can say from another angle of this act, that the question is, what are the remedies? Yes. What are the remedies available to respondents if complaint of sexual harassment is found to be false or malicious? Madam.
That's a very good question, Amruta. Because many a times we speak about, yes, the complaint being genuine and the genuineness of the complaint where she's been harassed and all, but sometimes false complaint also may be filed for their own reasons. So when such kind of false complaint is filed, now there are two aspects to it. One is a false complaint being filed, and one complaint which is filed with a malicious intent. Now, if a false complaint is filed with a malicious intent that I don't want to do this work and that's why I am filing this case of sexual harassment, the respondent can, as the legal remedies are available to the applicant, the same legal remedies are available to the respondent as well. So the malicious intent, that is the intent of that respondent, is to falsely implicate me in this particular case for her own selfish reasons, has to be brought on record by the respondent. And this may be treated as a misconduct and she may be expelled from that particular establishment itself. So whatever the service rules are there which are mentioned under the act, they can take recourse. And the service rules are very clear on that aspect, that if it is a false complaint. Now, again, there is another aspect to it, that if she is not able to prove her complaint before the internal complaint committee, can it be said to be a false complaint or a malicious complaint? The answer is in the negative, because she not being able to prove is an entirely different aspect. It may be because of the evidence or maybe the way the complaint has been drafted, she is not able to prove. But if she is doing with a malicious intent, then of course she is liable for punishment.
Yes, ma'am, my next question is, would sheer overburdening of a work by a boss on his female employee amounts to a sexual harassment? Madam.
Overburdening of work. No, mere overburdening of work would not come under the definition of sexual harassment. When we spoke about the term sexual harassment, we spoke about few concepts, that is the physical contact or the advances, the sexually colored remarks, or showing pornography, or welcome or unwelcome behavior which is of sexual nature. So this unwelcome act of sexual nature is very, very important. Merely you are overburdened with work will not help you in filing a case for sexual harassment. There has to be some connection with that overburdening of work and you being sexually exploited. So you have to have some relation with that. So the answer is in the negative.
Madam, my last question is, if a male counterpart is harassing a female counterpart in any educational institution, what is recourse available to that female counterpart, madam?
Now there, as I said, it is very, very important that the internal complaint committee should be established, and internal complaint committees are not established. There is a penalty also which has been mentioned by the government, which states that if you have not registered your internal complaint committee with the district magistrate, then you are liable for a penalty of 50,000. But then to the internal complaint committees are not established. So it is very important for you to establish such kind of internal complaint committee. If not, go to the local complaint committee. But the first and foremost course would be to report to your higher authorities. So if you have a senior teacher in your establishment, okay, in whom you have that confidence, report it to her or report it to the HR department. And every college or every establishment also should have a committee which is there for the protection of the female students over there. If not, report to the higher authority, whoever is there. And if they don't take cognizance, you always have the recourse of the police. Please understand this. People many a times tarnish the image of police, stating that they don't work, they don't take your complaints. But my personal experience is that whenever I have made a call or whenever I have referred somewhere, they are very vigilant about it, especially the sexual harassment which relates to women and girls, and they take cognizance of it. So you always have, and it is very important as girls to speak against it. I am time and again repeating that you have to speak against that act. Unless and until you speak, nobody else is going to come to speak to you or speak on your behalf. So it is very important to stop that perpetrator at that particular time itself. So take the recourse of your teaching seniors, if not the principal. If not, then you can always take the help of the local complaint committee or the police.
Yes, madam. Madam, the list of questions the students have given to me is finished. Can we proceed for the concluding part, madam?
Yes, Amruta.
Yes. So our student, Mrunal Vete, the TY LLB student, will propose the vote of thanks. So I request Mrunal kindly propose the vote of thanks.
I feel privileged to be given this opportunity to express vote of thanks today on behalf of Sharda Education Society and Anand Vishwa Gurukul College of Law and entire fraternity of college. I sincerely thank Advocate Priyanka Rani Patel sparing time from their busy schedule and sharing valuable information with us and guiding us regarding the sexual harassment. I also express gratitude to Dr. Pradeep Dhawan sir, Secretary of Sharda Education Society, our Principal sir, Advocate Suyesh Pradhan sir, and all faculties and oral college for arranging such valuable webinar for us. Thank you. With the permission of Principal sir, I hereby declare the session to be over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am.
My pleasure, Amruta.
Thank you.
Thank you.